What's up, everybody? What is up?
What's up in Georgia? Celebrate.
Oh my God. Can you guys believe what just happened in the state of Georgia? I mean, this is incredible. I was just so blown away. I don't know. It was, Sonya, I know you were probably up late, really late too. But I said to myself today, I'm like, I have to go live. This is historic. This is amazing. I was like, Sonya, Victor, can we just do this? And here we are, because I wanted to facilitate a conversation for all of us and a venue for us to all celebrate together. So, holy crap! Yeah,
oh, I'm so excited. Yes, I slept. I don't know if I slept at 2 or 3. It was late. I was watching, following. Nervous, but just the emotion of knowing all of the work that people have put in. I mean, it's been a multiple kind of, organization effort to get to this place. And it's so exciting.
It really is. So just to give you guys some context, Sonya and I are both in Atlanta, Georgia. We've spent a lot of our lives in Georgia.
That's good.
Hey, it looks like Lacey froze there. So I'm going to go ahead and talk until she comes back. It looks like
Here I am.
So you're still on, Sonya?
Yep, I'm here.
So, man, yeah, definitely. This Georgia thing was pretty crazy. How long did you stay up to watch the polls?
No, I was definitely up by. I mean, like I said, I don't think I went to sleep till 3. I was probably watching till 2, and it was nerve-wracking. But yeah, it's just so exciting, and it's historic. And being here in Georgia, my emotions are so high. And I know you're a new Georgia person, but you got to be excited too, because you were part of this whole yanking and this momentum.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've never been so political heavy. What's up, Tim? Tim came from California to volunteer here in Georgia, so that guy's definitely an all-star.
Tim did awesome. I've got to throw kudos out to him. He just, he was out there canvassing, so he can speak to being on the ground.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, as I was saying, I've never been politically active, nor have I ever been very interested. It wasn't really until Andrew Yang came along that I was, suddenly I paid attention. And ever since then, Georgia has been almost like the epicenter of politics all of a sudden.
I know.
So, I mean, I didn't have to do anything. It just came at me. I mean, knowing you guys, you and Lacey, it just comes at me. So anyways, here is Lacey.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Oh, there she is. She's back. Hey.
Hi. Oh my God. I'm so sorry. That was so wild. I lost power. Did you guys see the light go out before I went away?
Yeah.
No. So my thing was, it froze. You guys froze. I could see me, and I made sure my Wi-Fi was good and all that. But we were talking anyway. We kept talking about how we're feeling and how Victor got involved with politics.
I'm going to disappear. So you guys go ahead.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was the weirdest thing. It was just
it's all good.
My light went out, and then my power went out, and then I lost Wi-Fi. So anyways,
okay.
So I was saying before I left that trying to give some context. So obviously you guys have been watching while I'm gone. Victor's our awesome technical producer for the Rethinking Humanity podcast. Sonya and I obviously do the Rethinking Humanity podcast together, and we live in Georgia, and both of us have lived in Georgia for some time now. And so this is a big deal for us. This is a big deal to be a part of.
Yeah, it's like the eyes have been on Georgia. It's just been super exciting. I'm really proud to be a Georgian. I'm proud of the people that have, just everyone, you know, every little bit counts. And what I love about it is I woke up thinking, maybe I thought about this, last night. A lot of times you think what you do doesn't make a difference. I think this win in Georgia shows it makes a difference. Every little step, you cannot see how much your impact is making. And it's just so exciting to be a part of it.
That's such a great point. That's such a great point.
You want to give a little bit of background for people maybe who don't follow politics or don't even know kind of what's going on and how momentous this is about what actually happened last night, or they're still actually going to call it today, but you can explain the story.
Yes, I'll do my best to be as factual and accurate as possible without being, you know, in total reporter mode. But basically, you know, in the fall, the presidential election, there was both of our Senate races. Georgia has 2 senators that we elect, and both of our Senate races were too close to call, so it triggered a runoff election.
Right.
And so that runoff election took place yesterday. Although there was a lot of early voting going on leading up to it. And it was a particularly important Senate race because the Senate right now, or before this election, was a place where it would become a 50-50 split in the Senate, 50% Republicans, 50% Democrats. And that would mean that any tie-breaking votes would go to the vice president. And that essentially gives the Democrats a lot more power and opportunity to make things happen. And I think many of us are particularly interested and excited about this because of the opportunity for these stimulus checks to come forth. And it's something that Ossoff promised as he was campaigning. It's something that Warnock promised as he was campaigning. It's something that, if I'm not mistaken, Joe Biden has come out and said he is willing to make happen once he becomes president. So that, I think, is something that's very dear to those of us who were supporters of Andrew Yang's 2020 presidential run and who believe in basic income, because we see that, you know, being a stepping stool, if you will, to that. So, yeah, as it stands right now, I think Warnock's race has been officially called. Ossoff's race has not been officially called, but the numbers are there. The numbers are there.
Right.
Okay. Yes.
So I was going to add a few things. So pre this race, the issue that we are having in the United States is that we couldn't get anything passed through our Congress. And what happened is that, if you haven't heard this name, Mitch McConnell is the majority. Is it what the title, majority leader? No. Senate majority leader, right? So what would happen is that things would get stalemated and really nothing was getting through. And the benefit of us now having 2 senators there is that we will be able to get things done. Because the other issue here is a lot of people worried, oh, what if you have a Democratic Congress, Democratic Senate, and a Democratic president? Oh my gosh, you know, hands are in one party's power. But that is not the case, because we have not been able to pass COVID relief, healthcare issues. I mean, the list goes on and on. All of the things that need to be done for the people haven't been able to be done because of this problem with our Senate, you know, majority leader, Mitch McConnell. So we are super excited that these 2 candidates, Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock, are actually a voice for the people, and they are behind the issues that I think are important to us, like Lacey said, that were with Andrew Yang's campaign and many others. And this is proof of that. This win is huge for us.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I think it says a lot about how things are changing and about how demographics and thought processes of people are changing in the South because, you know, we went blue in the presidential and then a runoff that is traditionally runoffs, Republicans turn out for runoffs and Democrats don't. So for us to show up and show out in the way we did as Democrats in this state, and I don't like strongly associate myself as a Democrat. However, I do feel that those line up with best with my values as what's available right now. So, but you know, we've shown up and shown out in this runoff, and I think I saw a statistic somewhere that it was more people showed up for the runoff than even in the presidential election.
That's true. And I don't have the numbers, but what Lacey says is accurate. Typically, with runoffs, it's the Republicans that show up. So Democrats really came through. They did the early voting, absentee ballot, and then, of course, those that voted on election day. And I mean, if you were living in a state or people who came from a state, everywhere you went, there were signs, there was advertising. I mean, we had tons of money poured in the state on both sides because of how important this election was. I know a lot of times people were overwhelmed. I got tons of mail. I really liked Lacey, though. I'd get personal notes. I would say, hey, I'm a nurse and I'm, you know, thankful for your vote. Please, you know, do your civic duty. And I love those personalized notes. And it inspired me, even though I know there was a lot of media coverage and ads. It was just such an intense moment here in Georgia and for the United States that it's part of it, you know, it was part of the deal. Yeah, I'm sure you got your own mailbox full of stuff.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. How many radical John Ossoff ads have I heard?
Yeah.
Oh my God. And so many things in the mail too. And how many text messages? Did you get a ton of text messages of like?
I did, but they were more. Yeah, I got a ton of those, but it was kind of funny because with those ads, I think they might have turned people off. The ones that were like the negative, you know, like that showed this ominous dark cloud that if the two candidates we were supporting, Ossoff and Warnock, won, you know, the world was going to hell in a handbasket or whatever they say. It was almost comical. Like I was like, really? Like you're actually making me vote for this candidate with these ridiculous ads. But no, in all seriousness, both are extremely qualified. And I feel strongly that they support, like I said, you know, align more with our values, definitely than the other two candidates.
I think what I'm most excited about is that it's two things. It's number one, these $2,000 stimulus checks going out. And I think it's going to be very difficult for them to not follow through on that. If they don't, there's going to be some real issues. And then number two, like we really are in a position to pass some real sweeping, changing bills, you know, because of having these, you know, the House and the Senate, how it is. So I hope that we take this opportunity to do some of that.
Right.
And I hope that we will.
Yeah, they've campaigned on like the healthcare issue, justice, reform, COVID relief. So yes, I do. I think now also the relief, like you're saying, even, you know, what we've been pushing along is the universal basic income. That's become normalized, especially with what's happened through the pandemic, right? I mean, it's some number like 80-something% of Americans support cash relief. So that's huge.
It's incredible. It's just very clear.
And that's what's really sad, that it can't go. I mean, it's ridiculous that we're not getting that through Congress. I mean,
and I'm so glad that we have a very clear chance to now. It needs to. It seems that we're, you know, I want to say entitled to it. But that's a very strong word. But look, that's what they've been saying.
I think we're entitled to it.
Elected, we're going to do this. So I think, So
are the corporations entitled to their tax breaks and, you know, bailing them out?
Right. So before we go any further, I want to say we have a couple of special guests, some surprises for you guys we're excited about. So we're going to bring one of those special guests in just a second. But we want to say, too, please chat with us. We're here because we want to talk with each other, but we also want to share with you and hear your thoughts. We want you to be part of the conversation. So I'm just going to be real honest with you. I'm not always very good at that part because I'm thinking about a lot. Sonya is pretty good at that. So, but just know that we appreciate you being here and listening and participating. And we're going to share your comments. So cool for that. If we are ready, Victor, our awesome technical producer, we're going to bring in our first guest, who is someone that I greatly, greatly respect. It is Joshua from the New Progressive Voice. Joshua, welcome.
Hey,
welcome.
Hey guys. Hi, Sonya, Lacey. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks for being here. It was kind of short notice, so I appreciate it.
That's cool. Yeah. I'm just glad to be on right now because this win is just such a major victory for us. And I mean, both of them, I mean, who would have thought? I thought maybe Warnock, but also Ossoff, both of them. I mean, that's just crazy. What a day.
What a day.
Yeah.
How are you? Oh, sorry, Lacey.
No, Sonya.
When did you realize that they were both it was a done deal for them?
Yeah. I think it's when I was following New York Times, probably. I'm on the West Coast. So at that point, it might have been around 7, 8 right after dinner. And the numbers, like the little ticker of the probability of winning kept going up and up and up. Particularly Warnock, it looked pretty clear. I was like, yeah, this one looks pretty much done. But as far as Ossoff, that one was probably closer to 9 p.m. on the Pacific Coast. So it kept going up like 65, 70%. And I was like, okay, well, this is looking pretty good.
Yeah.
How about yourself? I mean, like, when did you guys realize like that was the moment?
I'm trying to think. For me, I think early, like you said, that Warnock, it was pretty much, he'd already even spoken, I think, regarding his potential win, that he was going to represent all of Georgia, not just the people that voted for him. So I think the numbers were there for him, since we're the big math people. Now, Ossoff was a little bit more, okay, I don't see the numbers yet. I don't see the numbers. But then I'll tell you what turned the corner for me was seeing the tweet from Andrew Yang. He called it. He called it. And, I trust him. I watched him talk about how important this election was and what his thoughts were. And I said, okay, if he's saying it's happening, it's happening. And then I think then over time we had more, like I was following the New York Times too. So, yeah.
Yeah. What's interesting is that I was determined at the beginning of the night, I'm not turning it on. We're probably not going to know anything tonight. I'm just not even going to turn it on. And I checked my Twitter, and then Andrew had tweeted very early, like, congrats, Warnock. And I was like, what? And so I started looking. And then there was another tweet, I think, that he quoted, which I believe was Dave Wasserman, who had a lot of tweets coming out with information, great stuff. And so then I just got addicted to watching his tweets. And, he's like, hey, I'm done. I'm just going to call it, whoever wins. So he had a lot of different information than this, like CNN and the television stations did. So I'm actually really glad that I didn't watch any of the coverage, because I might have been really discouraged, but watching his Twitter was really, really a great way to know what was going on. So another piece of data that I thought was interesting is when some of the different networks were releasing how much better Warnock and Ossoff were doing than Biden in a number of the counties. So that was also promising. I was like, oh, wow. I mean, even like he's getting 70, 80%, whereas Biden got like 60, 65% at most in some of these important counties. And that was like, okay, it's looking pretty good.
Yeah. And I'm thinking like, what you're saying, Josh, is they're going to probably go back and totally analyze every aspect of where you said the votes came from. So that's really fascinating. And there's so many organizations like yourself that have been a part of this movement. It's incredible what's happened in Georgia, how many voters have been mobile, how many new voters we have that got registered. It's just amazing.
Yeah, Abrams and Yang and you guys, I mean, on the floor there. I mean, that's just, you guys get so much credit for that.
That's got to go to Sonya this time, because I just have been taking a break from political land for the most part. So
That's
Sonya,
true.
Sonya and Humanity Forward Georgia, really. There's also another organization.
Math Movement really did a lot. Asians, the AFF. There's so many. There's a bunch of other groups.
I think it's AAAF.
AAAF. Okay, yeah.
Josh, those folks knocked on 70,000 doors.
70,000. I know. I saw that post. That's just crazy. That was over a period of what, like one month, maybe at most, or maybe 2 months.
Maybe two. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
About 2 months. Yeah, that's crazy. That's
no,
insane.
It's just nonstop people. I think in so many ways, different groups contributed here, and it was a lot of exposure of just getting. And what's amazing is even with COVID, because we didn't have the same luxury of doing like rallies and things. You had to be creative of how to reach out to people. You know.
Yeah, that was the other one. Is I knew that the mail-in ballots were going to be coming in. You know, even though right early it was Loeffler and Purdue that were ahead, I knew that it looks like they're not that far apart. So with these mail-in ballots, but they still have 65,000, and there's 17,000 provisional ballots for overseas and military, and we've got to get what's his name, Ossoff, over the 0.5, otherwise there's an automatic recount. He's at 0.4 right now.
I think, yeah. So hopefully, and I've been reading that, hopefully it's going to get there. Hopefully it's going to get there. And I'm thinking,
this means a lot to me. Sorry about
what's
that. This means a lot to me as well, because I graduated from the University of Georgia, by the way.
What?
So yeah.
Oh my gosh, I have a story about that. Go ahead.
Really?
Yeah, I did human studies, geography, and psychology at the University of Georgia.
Way.
Yeah. So I was there in Athens.
My dad went there, and I grew up going to the football game. So, like, my family is just huge UGA people. So that's amazing.
Ooh, go Dogs.
So UGA's go Dogs, right?
What's your
I have to tell Josh.
Yeah.
I have to tell Josh the story. Is that
Lacey.
yesterday when we were at the polls, we were having people sign the cars after they got done, and one young guy, I don't know how old he was, but he comes up, he writes on there, and I didn't know what he wrote, but he's like, "Dogs for Ossoff and Warnock," and I was like, "Oh, he's a UGA guy."
I got to share a tweet that I put out a while back. I said, "We've got to Warnock Mitch Ossoff his majority leader position, off his horse." We got a Warnock Ossoff. Anyway,
I like that. Yeah. Warnock Ossoff.
Too early, right?
His majority leader horse. Anyway,
that's new. Now you what's your thoughts? I brought this up to Lacey earlier. So my only pushback, because I told everybody in the world, of course, to vote for these two candidates, was like, do we want a majority, in our Congress, meaning the Senate, the Republic.
Yeah, I totally like a super majority. Right. I mean, personally, I think so, because the GOP, as the current mutation, are just not willing to work with American people with anything, absolutely anything.
Right.
Had it been any other time in history, if it had been Eisenhower, Abraham Lincoln, Roosevelt, someone like that, I would be ready to vote for them. You know what I mean? Like, those are real Republicans to me. But the current mutation, I don't know what they are. They're not even, they're from the dark ages,
Right. It seems like there might even end up being three parties, like the Republicans that are left trying to be Republicans, the Trump party, and the Democrats.
Yeah, they're having their own sort of split and reexamination, self-reflection, just like the Democratic Party. So I think in the end, it'll be a good thing for them, because they need to move away from that sort of like dogmatic brand that they have. I don't think it's serving them, or the American people for that matter.
Right. Go ahead, Lacey. Sorry.
I was just going to say that I think that this is probably a pivotal moment for the Republican Party to realize who they are, what they're, where they're going, and what's going to happen with them, basically.
Yeah, and even the people, the ones supporting Trump, I mean, they're a more populist brand. They're more willing to look at various different policies like healthcare or whatever. They actually want those things, I mean, they may differ with us on some of the other things, A good portion of them might be a little different in terms of religion or their conspiratory nature or whatever. But when it comes to the populist message, that resonates with a lot of them. And the GOP has completely abandoned the working class. You know, I mean, even the GOP, they were conservative. They were for the working class too, except they were more about the brakes, whereas the Democrats were more progressive. They were more about the gas pedal, right? And so we kind of like use them together. But now they're not even doing anything. They're just totally like brakes, and that's it. You know, if anything, let's like retrograde. You know.
Yeah, I hear what you say. I think it's going to be interesting to see how it evolves, because I saw a lot of conversation with quote unquote the Republicans saying, how could we have won this? You know, there were mixed messages obviously coming in saying voting was the polls were messed up, voting's fraudulent, but at the same time, go vote.
Right.
I think they see that the writing's on the wall. Their party is not, it's disintegrating. So you're going to have to create something new.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel like we've been seeing that for a little while. Am I right on that, Josh? That this is the Republican Party kind of been struggling?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's not just obviously it's not just the GOP, it's the Democratic Party too. It's really is corporations have taken over. I mean, look how much they own of our wealth, our resources, the money. I mean, the disparity between the middle class and the rich is just horrendous, you know, and it's just growing and growing and growing. You can't just keep that momentum up. I mean, if anything, we're going to move toward that. We need to at least have something like a universal basic income in place so that people don't just fall through the cracks. I mean, it's just insane. So yeah, the Democratic Party and the GOP have to step it up. I mean, has nothing to do with socialism, has nothing to do with capitalism. It's the fact that we are in a fourth industrial revolution. And, you know, it's just, it's a different time, and we have to reconsider how are we going to address these changes, right? You can't do it like it was 1950 or 1940 or 1770. We're in a new era.
Yeah, so that's absolutely true about the new era. I think it's really fascinating. I listened to one of the podcasts on Yang Speaks, and I learned a lot. And I think a surprising thing, I think Yang learned a lot on this one with Justin Amash. He's a libertarian who's no longer going to be in the conversation. The fact is that the whole system is broken. The quote, I think only about 100 members in there really care about what they're doing. The rest are there to collect a paycheck. I think that the quote was that of 22% or 24% of the population, we don't even trust the government system. So to Josh's point, it's both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. It is. And let me say very clearly that I definitely don't think that, you know, the Democratic Party is without its blemishes and is the best party or the perfect party. You know, I think that it's corruption. It's the same thing on both sides. And that's so disappointing. And I have to say, it's definitely been disillusioning for me because I've seen it a little bit more so in the last year or so, but I think a little more clearly personally. But what I really like is, Josh, is what you're saying about how we're living in a different time. You know, this is not 1950. Things are so different. And I think that, you know, basic income obviously has become something that people are talking about, something that people are favorable to. And I think the big pushback that we get is like, well, one of the big pushbacks that we get is, well, what if people spend their money, waste their money? And I'm like, I always think like, what do you mean? What is wasting their money? First of all, who are you to judge what they're spending their money on? But second of all, if they're spending it, they're stimulating the economy. So I don't understand that argument at all. You know, it doesn't matter what it is.
Froze up, Lacey.
Oh, yeah, she froze. Well, yeah, go ahead, Josh.
That's it.
Yeah, I agree because, you know, it really isn't tied to the economic system that you have. You're always going to have people that are freeloaders. You're always going to have people that, you know, aren't going to maximize on their potential, right? That's just a human thing. And even then, as you said, Lacey, we can't judge that because we're not walking in their shoes. We didn't have the same set of parents. We didn't have the same social, economic, psychological environment. Perhaps we would be the same way. Perhaps we would think the same way. We don't know, okay? But the vast majority of us, regardless of the economic system, the vast majority of us, I really believe we want to contribute. We want to feel like we belong, like that we are adding something positive to humanity, right? I think the vast majority of us think that way, and to think otherwise to me is really very cynical and a sad state of the way that, you know, like, should humanities, you know, like humans even be alive if we think like the vast majority of people don't want to do anything unless they're like forced to do it or coerced to do it, or else, you know, like you're going to get like walked over the head. You know, that's a sad way to look at, you know, like humans, I think, as a whole.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. I think this whole time that we're in, it is an error, like you were saying. The fact that with COVID, it made people slow down. Unfortunately, lives have been lost, jobs have been lost. It's turned our whole system around so that you actually have to sit back and say, how are we living? Does this make sense? Right. And why are we doing what we're doing? So it's just shown a light on obviously inequities.
What do we prioritize? You know, like, and why are these viruses getting worse and worse and worse and more deadly and more infectious? Like, that's something that we really need to ask ourselves. You know, we can't just blame the Chinese. We need to work with them and say, hey, what are we doing here? You know, like, maybe it is a recurrent event because we had the Spanish flu. You know, we had the bubonic plague, so forth and so on. So this is a recurrent theme. And perhaps it's time as humanity to, you know, really take a look at that and stop blaming each other and examine that and say, hey, maybe next time we can do better. We can be ready for this. You know what I mean? So you're absolutely right. We now have the resources, we have the technology, we have the manpower, we're interconnected, we've got the internet. There is really no excuse from this point forward, really is the point I think you're making, Sonya. I totally agree with that.
And the idea of the interconnectedness to me is fascinating because although now we know we're interconnected, say through the internet, for example, but we've always been interconnected as human beings. And I don't understand that people aren't able to see that concept, though. What happens in another part of the world will eventually affect us, whether it's a virus, whether it's an economic disaster, whatever, whether it's refugees. I mean, the fact we don't live in a bubble. And we have to wake up and realize that as you're pointing out,
And Fromm talks about that, right? Doesn't he? Where he talked about the interconnectedness of not just human beings, but animals, sentient beings, everything. And that goes back to what I think, you know, those that are greedy and in power, they like to find ways to separate us, you know, scapegoat people. And unfortunately, a lot of people, they get caught up in that, you know, because they feel left behind and they feel like the world's changing on them and they feel scared, right? And they have no one there to reassure them, you know, it's not going to be the world's not going to be worse. It's going to be better. We all get along, you know, like for once, you know.
Right. It's appealing to the fear, to the base part of, you know, human emotion, and then that alienation of, or we have the truth, we know what we're doing, so they go into, I hate to use the word, but I'll use it like cult-like behavior. And the reality, like you're saying, is that we all, and here's the interesting thing, I don't know where I saw this, but if you sit down and talk with someone, typically we're all wanting the same thing. Do you want better health care? Do you want your drug prices to be lower? Do you want to be able to have a job? Do you want to be able to go to school? It's only when those terms are taken and used, say, Obamacare or, you know, socialized medicine. So it's a game that the political people are playing to sort of create these separate groups.
Right. Interest groups like whether it be the military industrial complex or it be corporations, like, you know, whatever organizations are out there, their goal ultimately is to figure out how to use identity politics, right, to scare people. You know, it's socialism, it's capitalism, it's, you know, it's the Europeans, it's the Asians, it's the Black people, it's the Jewish, you know, whatever it is, you know, it's like this or that. It's always somebody else other than us together, just taking accountability and responsibility and working together to solve problems and finding consensus rather than, you know, being radicalized and blaming someone else and shaking our fist at each other, right?
Yeah. So Josh, I have a question for you, and kind of shifting back to the the topic of the runoffs and the Senate now, I'm wondering a couple of things. First of all, how quickly do you think we'll see these $2,000 checks, if so, that we have all been wanting and needing, and you know, that these
there's so many variables go into that. You know, if we are going to trust Biden and Harris in his promise that he does want to send out $2,000 checks, a lot is going to depend on. I personally think that the Democrats, by and large, have shown they do want at least 1,200 to 2,000 times one. I know some want means tested, others just want it to go to everybody. I mean, I would love that it be everybody, but presuming the Democrats continue in that theme of at least 1,200 to 2,000, I think Biden and Harris would sign on within the next, like, I'm thinking February, March even, you know, like, but the question becomes how much can Kamala Harris and their group convince enough GOP in the Senate? You know, they will need at least 10 to 15 GOP to come along, right? On that 2,000. And I think that already we see that, because even Lindsey Graham was signing on to that. So it seems to me, unless it is all just political, you know, like a showcase, which doesn't surprise me either. I think February or March, but again, I wouldn't get excited. I'm not necessarily thinking it's going to be 2,000 for everybody. I think it might end up being means tested. And beyond that, we have to really consider how we're going to start pushing the narrative toward something more than that, you know, ultimately, because we already know, like we talked about, it's a changed world. We can't keep functioning the way we are.
All right. Well, I hope it's sooner than that. I mean, I think it sends a very strong message. I'll say it this way. It'll send us a very strong message if it's as quickly as possible, as soon as they're in there, that they follow through on these promises. And I think for the interest of the movement towards basic income, the sooner the better, obviously. But I will say this, and Sonya, I also wonder your thoughts on this part. I have my hopes up about the $2,000 promises, because those have been made. But otherwise, I really got to be honest, I don't have my hopes up for a lot of things that we really want to see happening, because I just feel like the system just fudges things up and just like keeps things from happening. And so I wonder, you know, I think there's an opportunity for a lot, but I just don't have those high expectations at this point. And I wonder what you guys think about that as well.
I mean, I don't know. I guess it's a wait and see game. A lot of promises have been made to the constituents now. And I would say this is a different time in the sense that people are dying and the economy is horrible. So I would even argue there's Republicans, I don't know how many, like to Josh's point, you need some on board that realize this is a do or die situation. Like we're not screwing around here. So I don't know if they want revolt in the street kind of, but I think the next few months we're going to see which way they can go, and we're going to see who's holding it up basically. And now that we have the two other seats, that will be helpful. It doesn't mean everything's going to sail through like some people believe, but it's one step closer. So it's going to be a waiting game, I think.
Yeah, they'll need 60 in the Senate. So this idea that just because we have 50 plus one, the Kamala, is a done deal. That's not true. So this whole idea of now we know who to blame, that's not accurate. We need to be very nuanced and very careful about pointing out specifically which senators, which representatives are not supporting what the American people need. And then when 2022 comes around, they're out of there.
Yeah.
The last thing I want us to do is to go to, something like civil unrest, because I think we're in a very dangerous time. Not only because there's so much misunderstanding between the two groups, but even though all of us, the three of us agree that the vast majority of people were on the same page, the way they identify, they don't necessarily see that, and it could end up being where the working class and middle class are going to clash when the real problem are the ultra rich and their elk and the corporations and Citizens United and all that, and we're going to misdirect all of the energy and end up hurting each other in the end. So I think that's why it's so important we don't radicalize right now. In fact, we really be sensible about holding accountable very specific people, just like we did McConnell this time around, and make sure that that happens in 2022, that they're out of there.
Yeah. I think that's a great takeaway, Josh. That's a great point. It has been a blast to have you on, Josh. Would you like to promote any of your channels? Tell us what you're up to. How can people find you, follow you?
Yeah, I've been struggling with changing my channel name. Right now it's New Progressive Voice. I have been thinking about changing to Paradigm Shift, mainly because the word progressive, it's gotten, but at any rate, yeah, follow me on New Progressive Voice on YouTube, on Twitter, and I'll have to take a look, so give me a second because I always mess this up. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's Joshua for NPV1. Or also just Joshua at the NPV at Joshua for NPV1, the number 1.
Okay, say it one more time.
It's at Joshua, the number 4, NPV, which stands for New Progressive Voice, 1. So Joshua for NPV1, the number 1.
Beautiful. I know I've told you this before, but I watched your stuff early on in Andrew's campaign and just loved it. So thank you for what you're doing. Keep doing it. We appreciate you.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to having both of you on sometime in the future. So stay in touch and we'll collaborate.
Go Dogs.
Okay. Yeah. All right, go Dogs. That's right. All right, guys. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for having me on. Bye.
Thanks.
Cool. I love him. He's great.
He's awesome. He's really good.
Yeah. So Sonya, you said, what time did you go to bed last night? I mean, you were watching this late. Right?
Well, I probably turned the thing off at 2, but I probably didn't fall asleep till 3. And then when I woke up, I was like, okay, I got to look at my phone, got to look at the, online, everything going on. I already knew where it was going, but I was just still, it was just hard to rest. I was so wired. I know.
I know. I tweeted that.
I know.
I tweeted that. Like, how do I go to sleep now?
Well, I was reading a novel, and I'd read a few pages. I'm like, no, don't look at the screen. And I'd be okay, I can't help it. I got to look at the screen.
No, it was so hard to stop, wasn't it?
Yeah. Well, I have to tell you, and I'm dead serious. At one point, I think when I knew this was going to happen, I was emotional. I was really emotional. I mean, I felt. I don't know. I was just so happy that I worked with everybody and we were able to make our little contribution.
Yes. Well, you know what? That's the perfect transition. I wanted us to talk a little bit more specifically about what you guys did. We do have a guest who's going to jump in here shortly with us, who's going to share more about that. But Sonya, until she is ready, tell us a little bit about what you and Humanity Forward Georgia have been up to. And I mean, you guys don't give me any credit because I really haven't done anything.
I will.
Break mode. But Sonya, you guys have been working hard.
No, I do want to give Lacey credit, and I'll explain why, Lacey. Because for people to get involved, there's got to be a catalyst. And Lacey was extremely passionate about Andrew Yang and was a volunteer and then joined his campaign. And when you came back from that, and even before that, we started, we had our little group here in Atlanta. And so, yeah, I do give you credit because it's got to start somewhere. And basically when Yang suspended his run, he established Humanity Forward. There's Humanity. I get this confused all the time. There's a volunteer group, and then there's the other group. Rachel can speak to that. So we are Atlanta, Humanity Forward Atlanta. And we've done just various things, obviously civic things. We really weren't, when the Georgia race, when we saw the Georgia race was going to happen, we amped up and we did so much. There's a laundry list of things, canvassing, letter writing, art installation, Beltline. Pre that, we've done just, like I said, many things, garbage pickup, any other candidates that we were, interested in, we were trying to help support. again, it's very civic minded, UBI that we're talking about here, Universal Basic Income. And just whatever you can think of. And what I love about it is it's volunteer, and it's very much, you have a lot of autonomy. You can go do what you want to do with it, do as less as you want to do, or as more. And we write a newsletter. Okay, I think I've said enough. I'll let Rachel tell us about it.
She's not here yet. So here's what I will ask you specifically about. So the first thing that I went to, so this tells everybody, I definitely started Atlanta Yang Gang. So that's the link to what Sonya was saying earlier is I started the Atlanta Yang Gang and led that strongly from March of 2019 through October when I went on staff for a Yang 2020 presidential campaign. And so that group is continuing and has continued. And since I came back from the campaign trail, I've from afar been cheering everybody on, but hey, I need a break because I went really hard for a year and just wanting that space and rest. And so, anyways, so these guys have been going hard at it, and definitely, especially during the runoff period. And yesterday was the first time that I went to any event other than when Andrew was here. I was at a couple of events when Andrew was in Atlanta. But it was a cool event. I mean, I was so proud because I was like, this is the kind of event that I would lead or want to be a part of or would have planned before. It was this deal where we asked people when they left the polls to sign our car. what is that? What kind of a marker was that? Whatever the marker is,
a grease marker that you can, write with no issues on the car. Yeah. So we wanted people to say they voted or write whatever they wanted to write. We weren't there to promote a specific candidate, but just to engage with the voters. And, pretty much everybody wrote, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. It was really fun. And I mean, one of my favorite things about doing events with people, in the Yang Gang, as I have in the past, is just the quality time that you get to spend with people who are like-minded. So that's fun. But also just meeting new people. And so that was, people are so much more open, I think, to doing these things, to engaging with people than we realize. And then I think we noticed that at these events that we've been doing.
Oh, yeah. It was a lot of fun, and it was a great thing to do yesterday, especially with the results last night.
Yeah.
I was so excited of being a part of that. Yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we have our next special guest. She's here with us. It is Rachel from the Humanity Forward Georgia group. She is the president of Humanity Forward Georgia. And welcome, sister.
Yay. Thank you. Great to be here.
Thanks for taking some time to hang out with us.
Of course.
Yeah, it's Rachel Davies. I don't know why I just blanked for a second on your last name.
No worries.
Before we get into too much of what's been going on here lately, I'd like to tell our story a little bit, Rachel, because I think our story, mine and yours, is kind of cool.
A beautiful relationship.
It's cool. It's just cool. This is what happens. I think this is what I learned leading Atlanta Yang Gang. This is what happens when you just engage with people. When you just engage with people, because that's what I was so happy about. Whenever I started Atlanta Yang Gang, I was like, oh, there's somebody that likes Andrew like I do. Yay! Maybe they'll go do some crazy shit with me, like hold up a sign at the the corner of Boulevard and Freedom Parkway. But Rachel, you were in Virginia or West Virginia?
Virginia,
yeah. And I had been in touch with the Yang Gang leader of that area. And he said, hey, somebody's moving to Atlanta. And I was like, give her my number. Let's be in touch. And reached out to Rachel, and who knew that she would eventually become, the president of HF Georgia.
Yeah.
Crazy. I'm just happy about that.
Yeah. I remember when I texted you right after I got here, I was actually living in this apartment that they had just refinished my bathtub right before I moved in. And when I stepped in the bathtub, my foot sank into the like ceramic coating or whatever it is that they make bathtubs out of. So I couldn't use my own shower in my apartment for like a week. So they gave me a key to one of the other apartments to use their shower. But like, of course, it was like an empty apartment. So there's no shower curtain or anything. I remember I was like, just had walked in there and I was like, okay, what am I going to do? There's like a cockroach on the floor.
Oh,
no.
But however we connected, you texted me back and said like there was an event that weekend. And I was like, hell yeah. And it was the Atlanta United soccer game.
Oh, yes, Rachel.
So that's where I met you the first time and the rest of the Atlanta Yang gang.
Yeah.
So you guys were the first people I met when I moved here, because other than that, like the first week I was here, I was just setting up my apartment. I hadn't even been to work yet when I met you guys.
Yeah, that sounds like a horror story, number one. But
it wasn't that bad.
but yeah, that was one of our free beer when you Google Andrew Yang events. Yes. That was so much fun. People love that.
Yes, it was really fun. Yeah. It's amazing how many people we got to talk to doing the tailgating thing.
Yeah, it was good times. Sonya,
so Rachel, how late were you up last night?
About 3.
Yeah.
To be honest, it was very exciting.
When did you realize that?
When
it was going to happen.
When the runoff was first announced and Yang announced he was moving here and everything, we decided to jump right into action and do what we do best, which is just like grassroots, getting the energy up. We call it guerrilla canvassing, where we go out on the Atlanta Beltline, which is like an area where a lot of people can go for walks. It's really nice and it's free. And eventually it's going to be this huge walking trail that connects all of Atlanta in a big circle. But anyways, we go out there and we hold signs and talk to people. So we did that right from the jump. Right when the runoff was first, announced, everything was going forward. And CNN, a team from CNN came out and interviewed us. And the journalist was so skeptical talking to me. She was like, Democrats don't win runoffs.
No.
It's like, what do you really think is going to happen? What kind of work is this going to take? And I was like, I really think that the energy is very different. And now is the right time for change. I mean, Georgia just went blue for the presidential election. But also, if you just look at Atlanta in particular, I'm thinking of, but Georgia as a state as well, this is a very dynamic place, right? It's a very relevant place for political change today in the U.S. It's somewhere that's growing, that has an optimism and an energy. Yeah. And at the same time, it's rooted in a really deep history of activism and demonstrated ability to change policy through activism, through the legacy of civil rights leaders.
Right.
So especially with just how energized the people are here, and building on the work of all these activists and leaders that have come before us in decades and decades and decades prior, but of course having to give a lot of credit to Black women, especially Stacey Abrams, for really changing the game when it comes to turnout and mobilizing voters. I thought we had a chance, and you know what? Our efforts were not wasted. We made it happen.
Yeah. It's amazing. And you're right. The energy here in this city is special. It's unique. It's growing. It's a beautiful place. And I think, you know, people are becoming more and more open-minded over time here in different places where you wouldn't think you would find that. And I think that's evidenced by what we've seen in this election. But yeah, I mean, it's so interesting to me what the CNN reporter said to you early on, and here we are. I mean, never say never, guys. Never say never.
Yeah, it's I think Rachel hits on a very important point that this has been growing. I mean, we're building on, you know, decades of activism here. And this is sort of the fruits of that labor. When you're out there talking to people, I know she mentioned the Beltline. I mean, at least my experience was basically very positive. I think people are looking for change on both sides of the aisle. It's challenging because this was still considered a red state till very recently. I mean, it's sort of miraculous, but so many new registered voters, so many more mobilized voters. It's like the time is right for change here.
Yeah, I mean, that brings something to mind for me. A lot of people talk to me about we need to convince conservatives to vote for Democrats or something like that. Or we need to change Georgians from conservative to progressive or whatever. I don't think that that's the way forward. I think that the people of Georgia, whether they're conservative or progressive or liberal or libertarian, they're smart and they're going to vote in their interests, and or they're going to stay home if they don't feel energized about their candidates. And I think that you saw that in these elections as well. And it's something I feel strongly about, that it's not our job as activists to go out and like explain to people why we know what's in their best interest. This whole all eyes on Georgia, this whole dynamic energy of Georgia, I think shows how political leaders need to look to places like the South, places that they might have written off, and hear them and hear what's important to them. And they were sick of seeing things like Purdue and Loeffler just enrich themselves and lie to their constituents. And, you know, for conservatives, even, they're not going to go out and vote for someone when they've given up hope on them. And at the same time, you know, you have a lot of optimism and energy to really embrace some new economic policies that could be helpful for people here in Georgia, whether you're in an urban area like Atlanta or whether you're in the country. We need that pandemic relief that Mitch McConnell was blocking.
Yes.
And that's something that a lot of people could agree on.
Rachel, what are you most excited about as a result of this win?
I am most excited about, oh my gosh, I don't know. Obviously, getting rid of Mitch McConnell is top on my list because he is just the worst. But definitely just having the opportunity to make some structural change for democracy reform so that we can make our government a little bit more able to do its job, especially Congress. You know, its approval ratings are so low. We really need to fix it so that people can bring different kinds of ideas and we're not locked into these two poles, Democrat ideas, Republican ideas that are, it feels like both parties a lot of times are just defending like decades and decades of failed policies and not really responding to the needs of the people. Mitch McConnell was the type who would just block anything when you have a Democrat in office. He's not going to let anything go through. So now at least we have a chance for some of those structural reforms. I'm also really hopeful for more direct cash pandemic relief.
Yeah.
Directing more of the money towards the people. We'll see what happens. I mean, we really need to hold their feet to the fire.
Mm-hmm.
These very inspiring guys we just got elected, we need to hold them accountable and make sure that they follow through, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to jump in really quick. I tweeted last night.
I saw that.
Yeah, it said, "Dear Ossoff and Warnock, first of all, yay and thank you. Second of all, follow through with the $sign, emoticon or whatever." And I'm like, that is truly the sentiment. Like, yay and thank you, but you got to follow through, man. You got to follow through with what you promised to us.
Yeah. And then the next thing would just be, I am really hopeful that the Democratic Party is going to follow the hearts of its actual base, its actual working class voters, and start addressing the economic needs of the base of the people of this country. And to do that, they're going to have to listen to innovative new ideas about how to fix our broken system. Ideas like universal basic income, things that aren't rooted in things like means testing, things that are more universal. And on that note, also healthcare.
Huge.
We started to work towards that with the Affordable Care Act, but it really needs to be repaired and taken to the next level.
Yeah.
What are you guys most hopeful for?
Oh, wow. Everything you've said. Something I want to go back to what Rachel's talking about. I think it's a very valid point that we're at a point where people are looking at what they're tolerant of this corruption. I had read an article where one of these people that's Republican was saying he was going to split the ticket with Warnock and then Perdue, but then he said, I can't do it. I mean, this has to stop. The corruption, the Trump stuff, because he was actually associating them with Trump, which they are associated with Trump. So I think there's a point where people are just done, and that definitely contributed to getting some people that were on the fence to go vote for Ossoff and Warnock. But yeah, I'm excited that there's going to be some new blood in Congress. I think it's not going to be easy, but I think the people have to, as Josh said earlier, really keep an eye on who's doing what, who is deciding, who's voting no, who's voting yes, and have some accountability. Biden and Harris will have to see. I think they are very passionate about what they're saying they want to do. We'll see how it happens, because they're gonna be confronted with challenges, and it's not going to be a walk in the park. That's what I think.
So for the last question, Rachel, I want to throw this out to both of you. I saw a tweet that I actually felt like, okay, I think I really like this idea, and I want to know what you guys think. This person said, if it was me that got elected president, the first thing I would do would be a lockdown for I don't know how long, for let's call it 2 weeks, and a basic income would be implemented. So I was like, I kind of like that. What are your thoughts on the COVID as well, and how to address that? If you're Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, how are you approaching that as well?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting proposal of the 2 week. To make the 2 week work, I feel like you would have to be so extremely strict, though. I mean, that would have to be enforced, right? I mean, people would have to be cited if they go out. And I do think there's a trade-off there with civil liberties. I'm not sure exactly where the line is, but I do definitely agree that if you're gonna ask people to stay home, you have to pay them. You have to give them you have to give them cash relief. You have to give them something like a UBI.
Yeah.
I really think that I mean the lockdowns are a tricky subject. I understand why small business owners and people are so frustrated by them, because I really think that the main failure of the Trump administration was the failure to get testing and contact tracing up and running, especially testing. I mean, we're the country that is leading the world in biomedical innovation, and we have the majority of like Nobel Prize winning institutions in STEM, and a lot of the major pharmaceutical and biotech companies. Why didn't we have tests sooner? Why is it? I mean, it depends where you are. It's still not easy and straightforward to get a test. It's
right.
But, you know, we should have done a short, intense lockdown and then had testing and contact tracing ready to go.
Agreed. We did not handle it properly from the beginning.
Yeah. And we should have, I know you can't ban interstate commerce constitutionally, but there's nothing that I know of that says that the states can't coordinate with each other on how they're going to do the lockdown. So it's not just, it's like, oh, we're going to lock down the water in this part of the cup and not this part of the cup. Like water just flows, right? You would have to coordinate within the cup.
Right. Makes sense to me. Makes sense to me.
But you can't just freeze the water right here and leave the rest of it. Maybe depending. But my point is, you know, we really needed to do better in a lot of other areas. We can't really expect people to be just locked down forever and not pay them. And even then it brings up the question of how long can we provide something like a UBI during a lockdown situation economically. And that is a question that I think is really worth diving into, and that I'd like to hear a more intelligent discussion about. I don't know the answer. And I feel like it's so sad that this topic has become so politicized, and it becomes like a litmus test of, are you blue or are you red? Do you support the lockdown or not? It's like, let's get into the details and let's come together as a country. I hope that now that everything is settled with the election, people will be ready to move forward. And I'm hopeful that the Biden administration is going to be uniting in nature, because Biden has that, you know, kind of calm, friendly demeanor that he's not really, he doesn't give a bad taste in your mouth to a conservative or to a progressive necessarily. It's something that he could have a uniting moment for us.
I hope so. Sonya, what's your take on that?
I would say mandate mask wearing, no lockdown, and give money to everybody. Okay, the horse is out of the barn. Like Rachel said, we should have done testing. We messed up on that. Lockdown at this point, I think it's too damaging for some of these businesses. Some businesses have done a really good job of, the best they can of protecting themselves and their customers. Some haven't. I just think, it's too difficult to do. So mandated mask wearing and money.
Okay. That's a lot of them. Mandated mask wearing and money. I'll go for that. I'll take it. Rachel, thank you so much for being here, making some time for us. It was last.
Thanks for having me. This is so fun. I went way over how long I said I was going to stay, because I'm just having fun going blah, blah, blah.
Thank you, Rachel, for all your leadership too with Humanity Forward.
To both of you as well. I didn't do much, honestly. I just followed in Lacey's footsteps in the smallest way possible. And all the leadership I have shared with the other members of my team, including Sonya, who's another leader, particularly people like Adrian, Carrie, Lamont, Eric, Lawrence, Philip, just to give some shout outs. I know I missed people, and our national Yang Gang network that supports us.
Yeah, and a shout out to the people that came here and helped us. They were just so awesome. The whole team, the volunteers from everywhere. Can
we name some of them? Yeah, let's
see, Tim, Derek, Mark, Hannah,
Clara, actually in-state, one of our new volunteers who did a lot of work as well.
Okay.
So many.
Catherine was supporting us every single day. Colleen.
Mm-hmm.
I'm giving all first names here, but I don't know what I'm talking about.
Thank you all. Julian Lowe, who was on the advanced.
Oh, absolutely.
Will Lexham has been here.
Yes.
Tim Pack. I saw Mark Cluck is here, has been here taking pictures. I think he's headed out. So it's been really great to see everybody. Hannah,
Tyler,
Hannah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. We owe you guys lots of gratitude and love for the hard work that you did. I think we were mentioning this earlier, Rachel. 70,000 doors. Tim's group, I believe, knocked on 70,000 doors.
Oh, the major important shout out, our partners, our organizations that are leading the way for us, that we are just trying to learn from them. Number one is Organize to Mobilize, Antonio Lewis. Anyone is watching this, please look up Organize to Mobilize. They're an amazing grassroots organization led by Antonio Lewis, who is a local organizer, grew up in the same neighborhood where he is organizing the local youth to activate politically and to improve their own communities and their own lives. Extremely inspirational, and we're just trying to learn from him at this point. Also, AAAF, which is an organization for Asian Americans. I don't remember what the F stands for. Do you guys remember? Action Fund?
Yes.
I don't know.
Fun, maybe.
He'll tell us.
Tim will tell us in a minute.
They provided a lot of the resources for our canvassers, and they were extremely instrumental in this election in mobilizing.
100%. 100%. Saw it clearly.
Yeah. So super grateful for the leadership of those organizations as well.
Thank you all. We did it. All of us together, collectively, we did it. And it's a day to celebrate. It's a day to pat ourselves on the back. It's a day to reflect and be thankful and to toast to this victory. I'm definitely inspired and refreshed by this for sure. So, Rachel, thanks again for being here with us.
Thank you.
Yay! Great talking with you as always.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay. Good stuff, huh?
Yeah. AAF, by the way, is Asian American Advocacy Fund, just for those who.
There you go. Perfect. Thank you, Sonya, for that. Rock on. Any closing thoughts as we wrap it up here, Sonya?
It was just great to hear from, having our two little guests on there and getting some insight. I know that the momentum is here, and I hope that we keep going with it. And I mean, the thing that I take away, even through like the darkness of COVID and everything we've gone through, is that you always have to have hope and have that optimism that we're moving towards where we need to be. Because I think, there's moments where you say, I have to tell you that there are moments last night I was like, I'm going to be so depressed here,
Right.
Just because you're emotionally involved, and the energy that you put into something that you're passionate about, you're very invested in it.
Right.
And I had to get to a place too, I got to tell you, Lacey, before we sign off, that I said, okay, whatever happens here, I got to be okay with I did what I could do,
Yeah.
I don't want to have those regrets. And I put myself out there, but I was just so thrilled, not just for myself, but for everybody that, had a hand in it, it was exciting because I knew literally the country and the world, and I was getting texts from all over from people watching and just, being involved in it, even though they weren't in Georgia, they were watching Georgia.
Yeah, right. They're watching from afar. Everybody was paying. I mean, this is pivotal to the world in a way.
Right.
So kind of crazy, but I will say, I think I agree with you about the element of like, okay, I know I did what I could do, and that feels good, and let the chips fall where they may after that, because I'm not in control of that,
Exactly.
But what you are in control of is what you do and how you contribute to making a change. And I think that is a very empowering position to be in. And certainly the position that I've taken in my advocacy and activism in the political world. And also, I think one thing that I've learned, it's been a long, painful lesson for me, but, in reality, we're not going to win every time. And it's easy for me to say that, and it's easy for you to say, yeah, you're right. But when you put your whole heart and your whole soul into this and you don't win, it's painful. It's painful. And it takes a minute to realize, even when you don't win the race, you're still, that doesn't mean you're not making an impact, and you're not, and you're not making progress. And I know that that's the case with the work that we've done. And so luckily this time, we got to see the win as a result. And I'm so happy about that. And hopefully that leads to so much more. But it doesn't always happen, but that doesn't mean it's a waste. Not at all.
True. Good points to close with, Lacey.
Thanks. Yeah. So thank you, Sonya, for making time. Of course, one last thing we'll plug. Of course, we do the Rethinking Humanity podcast together. Anchor.fm/Rethinking Humanity. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify. We're on Instagram at Rethinking Humanity. We're also on Twitter. Also tomorrow, we are going to be live for a Rethinking Humanities interview with a woman named Carrie Malo. Ooh, I got to get her name right. She wrote a op-ed in the Baltimore Sun recently, and we're going to have her on live tomorrow. Carrie Malawista. And this was a op-ed in the Baltimore Sun about the coming mental health storm as a result of COVID-19. Excellent article. I'll retweet it a little bit later. You guys can check it out. But that's going to be tomorrow live here at 2:30. So don't miss that.
Awesome. Look forward to it.
Hope to see you guys. And thank you so much. Celebrate. Enjoy the day. Love everybody. Thanks for all your work.